States is tightening the economic noose on Tehran with new sanctions, which will make it even harder for Iran to do business with the West. Among those being targeted by Washington is the head of the Iranian central bank. He's been designated a terrorist for allegedly funneling money to Hezbollah. At the same time, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif is visiting Brussels. The hope is there to keep the nuclear deal alive. Speaking ahead of that summit, the German Chancellor told trade unions that Europe wants to protect the deal.
We have experienced a setback in German-U.S. and European-U.S. relations because we, Great Britain, Germany, and France are of the opinion that the deal against Iran's nuclear armament is a deal that, while it certainly has weaknesses, is a deal that we should stand behind.
Fred Plykins live in Tehran. Fred, look, the Iranians have given the Europeans basically a 60-day deadline to decide if it's going to maintain the deal. However, Fred, on this program, we deal in reality. And the reality is, if those US sanctions are in place, then European companies or the rest of the world that also does business with the US cannot do business in Iran. Ergo, the deal may survive, but Europe's companies will be hit hard.
Well, they'd be hit hard unless the Europeans find some sort of diplomatic way to deal with the United States on this. But that seems like something, you're absolutely right, Richard, that would be extremely difficult. You know, it's interesting because there was an extremely important interview on CNN Money that John Defterios actually had with the head of Siemens, of course, a big international company that does business in the U.S., also does some business or tries to do some business in Iran as well. And they said flat out they don't see how in the future they are going to be able to do business in Iran simply because they don't want to get the wrath of the Trump administration and generally of other administrations in the future in America as well. Nevertheless, you have the Europeans and the Iranians there in Brussels trying to sort something out. And it was interesting today that Javad Zarif was there in Europe. He got all these assurances from his European counterparts, but he said, look, what they need is specific action. Apparently, the Europeans are trying to work on some sort of mechanism or to come to some sort of agreement to try and make that happen. But you're absolutely right. It's very difficult to see how that could be possible with the economic power that the United States has. Of course, for the Europeans, it's an extremely difficult situation. It's no secret, Richard, they weren't happy about President Trump's decision to pull out of the nuclear deal. But of course, the U.S. remains an important trading partner and ally, Richard.